We are live with Leading Comments episode 8 that I am so excited for. I took a shower today. That's how excited I am. And it's not even Tuesday. And we have Natasha Wallstra and I are here. We have Emily Paulsen with us, who is uh, going to talk about your brand and why it matters. And then maybe in the process, help solve both Natasha and my individual existential crises.
I'd love to. I'm here for it.
Uh,
I washed my hair today, so I couldn't be more ready for this.
we're good. And it
I
looks
feel
like
bad.
Natasha.
I definitely didn't shower today, but we're getting there.
Well,
Early in the
looks
day.
like you changed your shirt.
I did. I'm not wearing my normal comfort shirt that I always wear.
Right.
That's too funny. Well, awesome. This is the timing could not be better because last week Jeff and I were having a call discussing our upcoming podcast episode, and it turned more into a therapy session slash existential crisis for both of us because we were trying to come up with that clever, concise one-liner, in 5 words that says what we do, how, and for whom. And it's really hard to articulate the value that we do, right? And so it was very fitting that, Emily, you were available to join us today because not only are you an amazing human being, you are a branding expert, having worked with top brands, big companies, small companies, startups, solopreneurs, badass women, and we are grateful you are here with us today. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the introduction. I love a good crisis. So I'm thrilled to share and get into it and help in any way I can.
Well, if you like personal crisis, you've come to the right two people.
But she's saying actually even more so that this is actually quite common to have some of these meltdowns over branding. So I'd love to obviously talk more about branding specifically, but let's give it a little bit more of your background, Emily.
Sure. Yeah. So, as you said, I've worked in branding and marketing for years, 15 plus years at this point. I've worked for large corporations and in the startup space, a lot of different avenues into branding along the way. And I've had my own business for 3 years, Electric Collab, really supporting women entrepreneurs with an incredible, cohesive, high converting brand that reflects the quality of their work. And that immediately leads into what you were just saying, right? The idea of being able to identify first and then articulate the unique value that we bring to our work as entrepreneurs, as founders, as corporate leaders. Like you have a unique package of background, personality, natural talent, skill set, experience that nobody else has. But me saying that and being able to really clearly, crisply say that about yourself, like that's two different things. So it's incredibly common. Like everybody comes to me and they're like, I can't explain my business unless I have 30 minutes to get into like everything I can do. And, it's so hard to drill it down. And especially if you start by thinking that you need a 5-second hook or 5 words, then it's like impossible, right? Like you can't start
Yeah.
like what 5 words in the whole lexicon of the, whatever. So yeah, you're not alone. It's certainly a challenge, I think, for anybody to be able to really recognize the value you bring to your space.
Is it supposed to be 5 words, by the way? Because
No,
I struggle and I feel like
no,
it should be.
no, it
No?
doesn't need to be 5 words. I think it needs to be a concise statement. I do think you should be
Yeah.
able to say it or read it in 5 seconds. So
Oh, that's
I
so
would
good.
work.
So it's
Yeah.
funny because when I first came to Jeff last week with this, I think I had 3 sentences. And he's like, yeah, that's not going to work. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, what is this? I said nothing in those 3 sentences either, which was the most weird part about it.
And that's the thing, right? The more we talk, which is our inclination, it's like, give me more time, give me more space to say what I need to say. Usually, we're distilling the message by doing that. Like the potency is lost by making it longer. And the 5-second thing, like, that's not just an arbitrary number that I like. That's, based in like, we know how long it takes people to stay on a website, right? Like, you have 5 seconds when they see that above the fold and it's like, this is for me or it's not. Same thing on a LinkedIn page or an Instagram profile or in, when you're scrolling in conversation. Like, our attention spans are so short and getting shorter in the technological world. So that 5-second thing, like that's what we have. Let's lean into like the power of making something that is really concise and potent and crisp. Like, that's going to be stronger than taking a whole page or a whole 30 minutes to discuss it.
Yeah.
I have a question about it. I know what you do according to your website is you go through the what we're talking about, it kind of the wording, the positioning, but then there's a design element. So what's your background? Is it both? Are you like a designer that's also a therapist? Or are you
Yeah, like why listen to me on any of this? Why
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
I know how to do any of this? Yeah, good
Yeah,
question.
who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah. Who the hell? Who do I think I am? Okay, I'll answer. So yeah, I mean, most of my career was really in the strategic and positioning side of branding before it was about design. So really understanding storytelling on a deep level. I think human connection in branding is so critical. And maybe it makes sense to, like, I know you just asked me about me. I'm not deflecting, but sometimes I feel like I start talking about branding and then it's like, wait, what even is a brand? There's so many definitions out there. So, okay, I'll zoom out for a second. Not just me, in my opinion, but in the world, when we look at the reality, your brand is really the first impression and the lasting reputation of your business. Like, on the front end, people often interact with your brand before they know you personally. They find your website, somebody shares a link to a podcast you were part of, they find your social media bio, whatever. They're interacting with your brand. They see your packaging on a shelf, right? They're interacting with that. And they're using that initial interaction to decide whether they want to engage with you further. So it's really that first impression. And then on the back end, once somebody has become a customer, whatever experience they had, really positive or really negative, we associate that with the whole brand. So, if I'm on a road trip and I get food poisoning from McDonald's, then the next road trip, I'm going to be like, I don't want to go to McDonald's. It doesn't matter if the McDonald's I got food poisoning was 300 miles away, right? I've associated that with the whole brand, and it works in the positive way too. So my career was really understanding how that works. And really, when you think of it in that way, that first impression and lasting reputation, like the weight of branding, the important role that plays, and how people understand and connect with a business is so real. And that's what I learned, in all the roles and being on big teams and all the things earlier. And then when I was in the startup space and everybody wears a million hats, then it's like, well, you're the only one who knows anything about branding. Can you learn design? Can you do the website's part of the brand, right? Can you figure out how to do the website? Like, things like that just kind of added on. And then you get formal training when you need it. And eventually you kind of have the whole package of, okay, none of these pieces can be cut out. The words are really important. The design is really important. The digital experience is really important. Like, I don't see a way in it that makes sense to kind of shave that down or cut pieces out. So that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am now, offering that one-stop shop full service experience, because I think within their own right, like they all kind of work together to create an effective unit.
And as we know, though, also too, there's like two types of branding, right? There's the personal branding and business branding, corporate branding. I do a lot in that personal side, but can we talk about the differences of the two?
Yes. Yeah, they are different. But I think at the core, like, I think the most important thing in branding is humanity. And there's just different ways that you go about achieving that. So if we're talking about a personal brand, whether it's for a business that they're associated with, like they're using their personal brand to sell products, services, courses, whatever, or it's a personal brand, like they just want a brand as an executive out in the world and they're not necessarily selling a product or service, but they want to be able to stand out in their field. Either way, when we're thinking about personal branding, that humanity is based in you, right? What are your values? What are your personality traits? What's your tone of voice naturally? And how can we really lean into that and amplify that in your personal brand? How can we tell your personal story in a way that relates to the work that you're doing? On the corporate side, it's less about an individual founder, but the human stuff is still there. Like, I'll give McDonald's a positive example since I just gave a fake food poisoning example. Like
And
slander.
also, we need to say that you used to work for Wendy's, so
I did used to work for Wendy's. Yeah, I did.
You're bashing McDonald's to not go unnoticed.
It's been bred into me. Like McDonald's bad, Wendy's good.
Funny.
But
I almost wore my red hair with it.
Yeah,
but that's crazy. That's the branding, and we associate the logo with that. That's like, it's crazy that we have like someone in mind right now, like a visual, a visual of Wendy's,
Dave.
Exactly. Yeah, Dave Thomas. Yeah, and like those are both examples of like mega giants. Like most people pulling into the drive-through for McDonald's or Wendy's, they're not thinking actively about like, well, who owns this business? Who owns this particular McDonald's? But like they've done a lot through branding over the years, like Ronald McDonald, Happy Meals, Clowns Are Happy, Ronald McDonald Charity House, which serves families with children. Like, this family friendly, the playground thing. Like they've really injected all these human pieces about childhood joy and family togetherness and accessibility that like we might not stop and think about it, but we feel those things with the brand. And like those are human traits that they've woven into it without it being all about the president or the founder or that kind of thing. So I think there's, multiple angles you can take. You just can't leave out the humanity, like one way or another. I think that's what separates a lasting legacy brand from a brand that has a hard time making an impact.
And are you seeing more of personal branding, individuals coming to you, like more of a focus on that than in business branding these days, or an increased focus on personal branding?
I think I see 50-50. Like there's definitely the word personal branding as a phrase is out there. And I think people are thinking of it. And if you hear like, well, so-and-so is a personal brand, I'm a person. Am I behind if I don't have one? Like, is everybody getting one of these? Am I going to be behind or, whatever, if I'm not thinking about my personal brand? So I definitely think that feeling is out there. And I get questions in that regard, like, what should I be doing? How should I be thinking about the way I present myself? That definitely comes up. But I also think there are a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, founders, they have a business or they want to start a business, and they're afraid that it's going to have to be all about them. And they're like, I just want to, I just have this bakery, I just have this boutique, or I just want to have a team of coaches that does coaching while mothers are on parental leave, or, like different whatever, or I'm a trademark attorney. Like it doesn't matter what the product or service is, but there are some people who are like, I don't want to be showing my face on absolutely everything. I don't want to name the business after my last name. I want a team of people, or I'm building a business to sell it. Like, what do I do if, I want this humanity, I want this human connection piece, but I don't want to be the next Amy Porterfield or James Wedmore, or, where it feels like it's really all about them. So I think there's people in both camps, and I think people are confused about it.
I'm confused. But that's a different subject. By the way, anybody listening, feel free to if you're on LinkedIn, drop your questions in there for Emily. We have her stuck with us, so we can force her to answer questions, and that it is very valuable. And by the way, let's just tell everybody your website is Electric Collab, right?
Mm-hmm. Electriccollab.com.
Yep.
Can we get back to our existential crisis again?
Please do.
When you wait, I forgot to bring tissue.
Jeff, by the way, Emily and I met afterwards again to talk further about this, because I was so like, I'm still somewhat distraught, although we made lots of progress and I feel really good about it now. But it is interesting, like this process. I'm actually curious, like when somebody comes to you like we are now, like how do you walk them through the process of getting out of that crisis?
Yeah, I ask a lot of questions. I mean, first of all, like, it will be okay. We will figure it out, right? Like, we will figure it out. I've never, ever had a client where I'm like, this is unfigureoutable, you should just quit. Like, that doesn't happen. So let everybody exhale. But yeah, I think it's helpful to have outside perspective, which could be through somebody you hire who's a brand expert, or it could be through a business friend, somebody who, a mentor, whatever. Like, having a conversation where somebody is asking you, okay, and let's forget about the 5-second hook. Let's forget about the 3 potent words that you're going to inject in your headlines everywhere. What do you want to do with this business? Like, who is this business for? Who are you trying to help? Okay, answer that. What are you trying to help them with ultimately? Okay, you know what this person needs. What do they say to you when they come to you? Like it's a series of questions and kind of leaning into instinctually when someone has an answer. Like I just think it's helpful to have an outside person who's like, yeah, you're giving it to me like the expert that you are. I will step into the shoes of the audience member who needs the thing that you offer, but is a total stranger to you. Like they don't know who you are yet, right? Like this is completely new to them. Like how can we kind of bridge the expertise that you bring with the novice perspective that they're in, and have something where those have some language that connects those two pieces. I don't even know if that makes sense. It's hard for me to like articulate the process I do, but
No, it does. You're
That sounds right.
essentially
Yeah.
doing a softer version of mission, vision, and ICP, right? Like the ideal customer. And
Yeah.
then you magically turn that into a few terms or sentences or whatever it is that
Yeah, all the core messaging, that
that
you're using
engage.
on repeat in all the places.
Yeah. So, can we talk about me again?
Yes.
There are two
Let's hear it.
things that, for clarity, you, Natasha, thank you for coming out and saying that you talked to Emily after our initial conversation with her, because I stalked her on her site and I started sending an email with I need help, but I decided to wait until we talk here. So my two things are the positioning, right? And I've been asking my clients, okay, what do they feel like? What's the transformation that happens in their work with me, and hoping I get some feedback from that. But another thing that really stresses me out a little bit are the colors to use on the website, because I'm really bad at that. And I know guy colors and I don't want guy colors. And so when you had mentioned that before, and I think there's a lot of elements to what you do that people just don't even think about the power and the impact of them, right? Like words matter, but first impressions matter too, right? And all colors have feelings and associated with them, and certain colors work well in websites and certain ones don't. And that's like, most people don't know that.
Jeff, I'll add on another confusion around this too, because Emily also used to work at Abercrombie, and when I think of Abercrombie, there's actually a smell associated with that, right? So it's not even just colors and words; it's like smells. But this goes back to humanity, right? Like this is all things we experience, and that includes smell. Yeah, crazy, right? I mean, do you know, like when I think of going in the mall and I know exactly when I'm passing by Abercrombie. It's that smell, the cologne.
Yeah.
That Starbucks, one thing about Starbucks that did really well is they consciously focused on the 5 senses and making sure that whenever you walk in the store, that you're engaging all the senses. And I thought that was brilliant. And so it sounds like Abercrombie is doing some of the same, at least.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to conferences, I always want to get a popcorn machine, because people are attracted by the smell of popcorn, right? You got to get them by the smell. So I'm still waiting for what is the odor, magic odor stuff. When you come to the website, you actually can smell something.
That, you know what, in the metaverse, who knows? Like that could be part of it through our websites.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So much to say here. I love this. Yeah. The sensory experience piece is wild, but it's so impactful. And my first corporate job was at Abercrombie on the team. Like their brand department was called Brand Senses as a department, because it was really about appealing to all 5 senses and creating a 3D experience. And whatever you feel about Abercrombie, and this was, back in the earlier 2000s when things were very different there, lighting, right? It was extremely dark in there when in contrast, every other mall store was using fluorescent lighting. It was like they were made fun of for how dark it was in there. It was loud. Like the music was so loud you could barely hear the cashier over the register. We pumped in scent on a very strategic like scent release system that kept that going at the right level. Like it was never too much. It was never too little. So they were really, and like fabrics, right? Like the texture and the quality of fleece that they use. So they really made a huge effort to create a sensory experience. And Starbucks, as you mentioned, is another good example of that. And we can do that with our own brands. Like somebody listening is probably like, well, yeah, I don't have a store in the mall. So how does that apply to me? But if you can think about think about the people you're serving as real whole human beings. So it's not just like a person behind a screen or a person scrolling. Like if you can see your perfect aligned ideal client as the full person that they are, and think about how you can create a brand experience that's really enjoyable and exciting, if that's the feeling that you need, or really relaxing, like the emotional effect that you want to have on that person. How can you create that through the items we can control, like color palette and how much spaciousness you have on your web pages and the amount of copy that people have to read and the type of photography that you're using? Like all of those things really create that sensory experience even through a screen. And they do make a difference. I mean, as you said, Jeff, like color psychology is real. There's tons and tons of data on that. We know that red means something very different, like it signals something very different in our brains than beige. There's a reason that most spas aren't painted bright red, right? They're beige and white and tan, and there's almost nothing on the walls. And, like the clutter, just reducing that in our physical space has an effect on how we actually feel in that moment. So, yeah, this is where I get like full nerd level with branding, because I'm like, no, what shade of blue? What shade of blue? Who are we trying to attract? What are you charging? Like, how do we? Because at a very nuanced level, it does make a difference, and all of this happens with our clients subconsciously. Like, nobody will say to you, "Oh, I was going to buy, but you had purple all over the top of your website, and that was a no for me." Like, it's more of a subconscious thing that's happening, and we just feel like, that person's not for me. Or, ooh, this looks like maybe it's exactly what I want, and it's all those triggers that are happening. We've just been conditioned and to respond to things in certain ways as humans, like part of the human experience. So yeah, in another way, that's back to this humanity piece of branding. It's humans selling to humans.
It seems to me a lot of people out of jobs right now, a lot of people looking for jobs. And I'm part of this fractional community that has like 8,000 people in it. And I swear 7,500 of them are former CMOs. And
Oh, wow.
it seems like in order to get a job, let's just talk about people looking for jobs, you need to stand out, right? Because there's so much competition. And this kind of goes to what Natasha does at Nearpoint Strategies, right? You need to know who you are and what you're doing and how you're positioning yourself, how you're being a thought leader, how you're putting yourself out there. It seems that what you are doing is more and more relevant to individuals to just get a job, right? Or, separate yourself from everybody else out there. And I wonder where this whole economy, this whole dynamic is gonna go, because everybody's trying to be different than everybody else. And the way to be different is to be authentic, right? Is to embrace your humanity.
Yes.
And it's not easy for everybody, right? Whether, I'm not saying, well, they don't have the emotional bandwidth to do it, but they just don't know how, right? So
it's hard putting yourself out there. Most people have spent their entire careers behind the scenes, right? Behind the screen too. And even so, like some people are great at writing and posting stuff, but like think about doing video live events. Like this is really hard to do. At the same time though, right? Like this is what separates, I think, moving forward with like this a creator economy that we're in. Those that do like actually do what they say they do and can show it, right, are going to be the ones that will be more successful, because they actually are like the thought leader or expert that they say they are, right? Because there's so many people out there maybe that just have been in these leadership roles maybe and weren't necessarily deserving of that either. So I think it'll be interesting to see where it all goes.
Yeah.
So,
I think yeah. Sorry, go
oh
ahead.
no, go please. You're the guest. I'm just the schmo that sits here.
No. This is a team effort. No, I think what you're pointing to there is I do think that is going to continue to happen more and more in the future, like this need to stand out. And like Natasha, when you and I talked in our other conversation, this idea of thought leadership, and we were like, is that term already burned out because it's already been
Right.
used so much? But like, no, it isn't. Like, that's really what people want to be. And, from one perspective, it's a beautiful time to be alive and to be a professional where people want to stand out. They want to be different.
Yeah.
They want to be an individual and figure out how to kind of package that up. Like, which pieces of me, if I'm this whole person with all these dynamics in my life as a parent, a friend, a daughter, a homeowner, whatever, and the professional stuff, like which pieces do I thread in? Which pieces do I leave out? Those are really important questions, but I think it's exciting to be in a time where we can really help people step into that authentic reality of who they are, right? Like people have the expertise, not everybody. And some people, like it becomes apparent quickly if you've just been looking outward and kind of copying others and saying, oh, this person uses phrasing like this, or they have a service structure like this. It seems like they're really successful. I'll just do the exact same thing. Like that's not sustainable for the long term. Like eventually, that is illuminated. So I think if people take the time early, instead of spiraling on this stuff forever, like invest some time and some energy, maybe some money in getting clear on what is my unique value? What is my completely unique approach? What is my completely unique package that I bring to this industry or to this type of role or to this type of company that nobody else has? And really like go back, right? Like what's your degree in? What were some childhood experiences? Like pull in you as a whole person, but through the lens of like how you're adding value in your specific field. Then you're untouchable, like you're irreplaceable, right? Because
Mm.
nobody else is going to be able to replicate all those tiny pieces that you've packaged together. It's really exciting.
So what is the transformation you bring people through?
I
You
was just
start
about to ask that. So good.
um, before Emily and post Emily. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before Emily, it's a lot of what you've said. Crisis, right? I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. I can't be concise. I thought I was really clear on what I wanted to say, but I've changed it 18 times and it's only been 2 weeks. Just feeling really unsure of, how to package yourself in a way that's going to quote unquote work. Like everybody wants a brand that's going to work, meaning it's going to lead to higher sales, bigger opportunities, higher caliber clients, larger prices. And your brand should do that. Your brand is a tool to drive business. So people want that, but they also want it to feel like them. So it's kind of this whole, catch 22. Like I want it to look professional, but not too professional. I don't want to sound like everybody else. Everything we've been talking about. That's where people start. Then by asking questions, me kind of pulling out the pieces that I think are really compelling from their story, really getting to know their audience on an emotional level, like where are those people, what is their mindset, what headspace are they in, what are their frustrations, their fears, what are their aspirations, what are their dreams, like kind of piecing together who you are, who you help, and how you provide that help, how you add that value in a way that's completely unique to you, like getting all of that out and down on paper so that those decisions are made. You don't have to change your Instagram bio or your LinkedIn bio every other week. You don't have to spend an hour thinking like, oh my God, I have a podcast.
Same.
I have a podcast interview. Like, how am I going to introduce myself? Or, when they ask what I do, what am I going to say? Or, when you're like, I've been in an Uber and someone's like, oh, wait, you do branding? I need that. And, if I'm like, oh, really? Like, yeah, I do. But like, kind of, and what kind of business? Oh, I think like, okay, they're lost. So once you have all those decisions made, I think just that first phase, like the clarity, the relief, the confidence that, okay, I know how to present myself to the world in a way that's going to make sense to them. And it feels really, really good to me. Like that's a huge transformation right there. then we get to the fun, sexy stuff of like, what are the colors that really bring that messaging, that positioning to life from a visual standpoint? Like, what should the logo be to reflect what we just decided is your personality or voice? Okay, what logo matches that? And how do we craft a website that really tells a digital story and takes people on a user journey to explain all of this to them in a really concise, enjoyable, searchable way? So, by the end of it, most people feel, my hope, and I'm always so grateful when I get the feedback, that they feel really seen and understood, and like kind of in their power at a whole new level to go out and share the business with the world. It should really not be focused on where you've been, but be focused on where you're ultimately headed.
So from confusion to clarity and confidence.
Yeah. See, you just did what
Awesome.
I help other people do.
In 5 words.
Potent, concise. Yeah. 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And this is where the power of external objectivity comes into play, right? I love that pickle jar analogy where you can't see the label on the outside, and like getting the professional to help you see that label is extremely powerful and necessary sometimes, especially when you're like deep inside your pickle, like Jeff and I think are.
Yeah.
Been marinating for too long.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm deep inside a pickle.
I hate pickles too. Great.
You hate pickles?
I do. And I talk about pickles all the time, but this pickle jar, damn. And but you can see the pickle jar. I see the label. Technically, like we all know that image of what it is. It's just defining it, right?
Yeah. Emily, on your website, you say you work with female entrepreneurs. So do you not like men?
What a man question to ask. You're not speaking to me. You must hate me. No, I love men, and I do work with men, and I've gone around. I think we've talked about this, even the three of us. Like I do position myself serving women entrepreneurs. I have 2 male clients right now who are great, and I'm totally open for that when that happens. But the reason why I've gone down the path with women specifically is I think so much of what we've talked about, like this hesitancy to really own our expertise, own our voice, the phrase you say all the time, Natasha, this feeling that this contradiction between wanting a personal brand, wanting to be a thought leader, wanting to get the visibility that your expertise has earned, but being conditioned to be respectful, be humble, be quiet, wait your turn, like all of that, I think is prevalent with anybody, but I think it's especially pervasive with women. And if I can help people through that, move them through that faster, help them own and articulate that expertise sooner, which benefits everybody, like not just you as the entrepreneur. I mean, you're not doing your potential clients any good by saying stuck in self-doubt either. So I see a real gap for that, like mindset shift with women. And I think maybe you both do too in the work that you do. So that's really what led me to put that out there so boldly.
And that way we also feel like you're talking to us and that you're the person that's going to help guide us through this self-doubt and limiting beliefs we have sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I feel it.
Yeah.
How can the people find you if they wanted to stalk you, for instance?
How I would love to be stalked. Like I'd be flattered.
Yeah. People think stalking is bad. Yeah.
No. I mean, if I were Taylor Swift, it would probably get to be too much. But at my level, I welcome it. So, yeah, follow me here on LinkedIn. Hey, Emily Paulsen. My website is electriccollab.com. I'm on Instagram too at Hey Emily Paulsen. But also on my website, I do have a calendar link there where you can book 30 minutes with me. So if you have your own crisis, if you have questions, if, wherever you are in the world of branding, if you just want to talk to somebody about it, or if you're considering help, like whatever, that's intentionally there so that I'm available to meet you. So yeah, I would love to be stalked and connected with in any way.
Awesome.
This is amazing.
Stalking available. Natasha, I think you and I both actually came up with ideas for our crisis resolutions.
Yes.
Do you want to share where you're at with it? And what you do? I'm not ready to share it just yet. Okay.
but I am focusing, and this is what Emily helps extract with me, is I was really talking a lot about like high integrity social selling. Like that's where my focus is. And so I'm coming up with putting that messaging around. So I'm super excited about it because that's really what I help with. And I, for whatever reason, have been steering away from talking about selling at all when that's like the goal of a lot of people with their personal brand is to get ROI from this, right? For their business, for themselves, for their, coaching, whatever it is. And so time to embrace it. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, of course, at Natasha Wallstra. That's the best way.
Awesome. Yeah, and I coach female executives because I don't like men. Just for I coach female executives and growth stage entrepreneurs, and my focus. I've been trying to figure out how to position it, and so I realize what I'm down to is that self-doubt is the enemy of growth, and it's time to conquer the enemy. Because as I looked at what's the transformation I do with people, it's from self-doubt to confidence. And so I'm working with that one.
Nice.
I like that.
We've made progress. This is so exciting.
It is exciting.
I like them both. I think, high integrity social selling. I mean, we talked about it. I think that hits it for sure and, sets your brand up to work in a lot of different ways. And I love what you just said. I mean, self-doubt is the enemy of growth. It keeps women playing small, playing scared. And it's, it's unfair. They deserve confidence that comes on the other side of that.
Amen. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This has been fun.
Really appreciate the time.
Thank you all for listening. And hey, we'll talk next time.
Bye.
Bye.